if you're watching this video, you're probably a fan of Tim Robinson, and specifically his sketch show, I Think You Should Leave, that played on Netflix. I love that show, and when I heard that he was starring in a movie that was basically a take on The Cable Guy, I got very excited, especially when I heard that it was Paul Rudd that was going to be the other guy. Now, that is the basic premise of Friendship, but I want to put a few caveats from the beginning with stuff like, the movie is Cable Guy, but very low key. I think that's something that you need to get ready for when you see this movie. That when you hear the fact Tim Robinson will be in this, you imagine a kind of wild zaniness. That when you think about it, it's present in his sketches, but that's not really the kind of core building blocks of them. Something else that really interested me about this movie is how would Tim Robinson work in a feature-length context? What kind of character would he be playing? Okay, so right from the get-go, he's a Tim Robinson character. You've seen his sketches and his kind of comedic ideas. It's mostly a normal guy who's very neebish, who will have these explosions of either anger or frustration and say something wildly out of context or so direct in the scene that it instantly becomes funny. It is maybe a little bit disorienting if you're expecting more of a normal movie, because it's one of those situations where you wonder, how can someone like this function in normal day society? What's great about the sketches is that they often feel like this is the cumulative event of this guy's life, and this is the breaking point. But here, because it's a series of those kind of events, of course his life disintegrates as the movie goes along, but it's just so funny to see. And if you're into this is exactly what you want. If you're not, if you've seen I Think You Should Leave and you're not really my comedy, I would definitely not watch this movie. I completely skipped over the plot. So I said it was kind of a Cable Guy thing. What happens is that Paul Rudd moves into the neighborhood where Tim Robinson lives with his family. He's got the house, he's got a car, he's got an okay job, and he meets Paul Rudd, and Paul Rudd, a weatherman who has the same mustache as his character from Anchorman, is the coolest guy. Tim Robinson falls head over heels instantly. So basically, we got a reverse Cable Guy going on here, with Tim Robinson being the Jim Carrey who gets obsessed with kind of the more straight, normal guy played by Paul Rudd. You will not be shocked to learn things may go awry, and it goes from there. Paul Rudd kind of fades to the background, becomes a Tim Robinson show, and just there's I Think You Should Leave, and I'm bringing this back up because it's really my only point of reference for Tim Robinson as a screen presence. That he's been writing on shows forever, but him right there on I Think You Should Leave, man, it just makes me laugh. And like that show, this movie, you may not always laugh during scenes, but thinking about them later on, they will make you chuckle. There's a drug trip sequence in this movie I don't think I will ever forget. That it's so funny, and to explain it would ruin the joke, and it's just that kind of thing. If you explain it to someone, I don't think they'd find it funny. You need to be in the moment. You need to have that tension that the movie creates to really have the laughs hit. This movie has not been picked up for distribution. I'm shocked Netflix hasn't grabbed it, because it works really well within the kind of Tim Robinson ecosystem that they have. That if you think I Think You Should Leave, I mean, why wouldn't you check out this film as well? The director has talked about that he wanted to make it kind of The Master, or a comedy without jokes. I mean, The Master thing, when you hear it, you're okay, that makes a little bit more sense. But again, the thing that I need to stress is that it's very low key. That it doesn't get wild, but where it ends up as a climax is very, very funny. And I wonder if will this win people over to Tim Robinson's comedy style? Are people checking out because they like Paul Rudd and going, oh wow, what is this comedian and what is he doing? It's so odd compared to any other kind of comedy vehicles like this. A bummer about this movie is that because it is so small and it is a sales title, it's probably going to be picked up by a streamer and then go directly to streaming. But when I saw it at the Midnight Madness audience, which is where it played on Sunday, this movie killed. I mean, again, it's a self-selecting audience. They pretty much know what they're getting into. But boy, it was funny. Laughs throughout, and not just laughing because you think you should laugh, but just real gut punchers. Friendship, very funny. Highly recommended. Don't know when it's going to come out because it hasn't been picked up. Hope that when it does, it gets to play theatrically.